This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, July 14th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here in September, corn down 5.5 at 435.5. August soybeans are down 4.25 at 1192.5. And September Chicago wheat was down 2 3/4 at 632.5. No export sales announcements here this morning. We did get CONAB, new CONAB estimates. Corn production 141.73. That was up from 140.46 last month. On the soybean side, also a small increase, 180.57 versus 180.25 from the previous month there. In the outside markets, we got CPI data here this morning, which is a key inflation metric. It was down 0.4%, which puts the annual inflation rate at 3.5%. That drop for this month was the largest drop since August of 2020. So nice to see a little bit of cooling inflation data there. Also, tomorrow we will get NOPA crush, looking for a number close to 203.98 for the estimates there. Yesterday afternoon, we got weekly crop progress and conditions. Corn increased 1 percentage point in the good excellent category, 68%. That's versus 66% for the 5-year average. And one thing to note, at this time last year, we were at 74%. On the soybean side, 65% good to excellent, also up 1 point from the previous week and 2 points above the 5-year average. Spring wheat side, 58% good to excellent. That's up 1 point from last week and 5 points above the 5-year average there. And on the winter wheat harvest, we got 67% of the crop out, up from 59% last week and well above the 61% 5-year average there. Good morning, fellas. Looking at the markets here this morning, certainly focused on weather. Appears that Euro GFS got a little bit cooler, a little bit wetter here for the 7-day. Got some better crop ratings there overnight. So I guess, Dustin, maybe kick us off here this morning, share a few thoughts, what's on your mind, and then we'll throw around the room.
Yeah, Dan, I think you're exactly right. I think the slight improvement in crop ratings and cooler Euro is certainly what the market's looking at over the overnight session. We tested those major moving averages yesterday for December corn. We tested the 50-day and the 200-day. We were unable to close above them. So I get the market's a little bit just uncertain about going higher right now. If there is a chance we get, trend line or above trend line, we will meet demand pretty easily. I still, question, how much influence the whole, lack of fertilizer flow through, the Strait of Hormuz is going to be in the end. I think the market's anticipating that, looking at the curve on things like energy, that we will get that flow again. But, as of this morning, we're back to Trump asking, notifying Congress we're back to war. We have a 60-day window for war again with Iran, and more ships are being attacked in the Strait again overnight. Some sailors even died. So the point of that is like, okay, this continues to drag on, and we're going to have, an unknown outcome with the fact that, I think it's something like 40% of Brazil's urea flows through there. We can create pipelines all we want for things like crude oil, but I still haven't gotten a very good answer of how Brazil is not going to get squeezed on fertilizer prices here, and what that means for future production potential. So I don't want to say, oh, the crop's made, on a slightly, wetter, cooler forecast when we're still below normal precip and above normal temps for that period. I still think that we have record demand that somewhat needs to be rationed if we don't get a well above trendline yield. And we have a very big question mark about future global production if we don't start getting, the Iranian situation in control.
Yeah, I got to pick on Ben for a second. So I think this highlights a bigger point of balance and certain, uncertainty that we're facing right now. But, we started the week of, how much legs does this thing have to this morning of, is it over? And I think that's the emotional fight that we've got in these markets right now and what we're battling. Ben, maybe share a few thoughts, what's on your mind and what draws those, those conclusions, I suppose. But there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, 100%. And my feelings are not being hurt for you picking me, because I think it's a question that a lot of people ask and something that we go through on a daily basis. And there's time frames, right? And I agree wholeheartedly with Dustin's assessment of the uncertainty over the longer time frame, without question. And when we have that discussion about a shorter time frame, you're watching price action, you're watching, the rejection at major moving averages. I certainly didn't think the first time that we would go through it, and we haven't. And then how big is the U.S. crop? What do we have to process over the next, call it 45 to 65, 70 days of the amount of supply that's going to hit the market? I don't think that we have a catastrophe by any means. I think to get to yields of last year will be a stretch. But there's a lot left here to finish. And both of those things can be right. They just may not work in the time frame that you want them to. I think it's interesting to note that we've gotten up here on this nice rally, and managed money hasn't really, on the lows, they were not willing to pile drive it and get short. They kind of got out of the way, covered a little bit of a short position, probably somewhere, slightly long now, maybe 15,000 contracts, 20,000 contracts, something like that, just an estimate. And, do they have the appetite or the reason today to pile in above those major moving averages? So, we could see a chop, we could see your classic sub first notice day break, and then have to digest what's going on in South America. I don't love the fact that we settled poorly and we're 5 lower overnight, but we're 5 lower and we found out crop conditions improved. I don't think that was a big surprise. We had talked about this 2 weeks ago, that the heat and the drying out would initially be beneficial for the crop. And we got a change in weather forecast, and we're 5 or 6 cents below where we went out yesterday. So it is easy to get roped in there, but you're going to ask those questions. There is a nice kind of a bullish trend in D's corn, and looks to me like it needs to hold 50. I think there will be some uncertainty again going into the weekend, and I'm interested to see where we wind up on Friday. Right, we defended a higher weekly close late on Friday, and every time we do that, the work gets a little bit harder as we get closer to feeling like we have a crop that's in good shape. And I'm not ruling out poor finish, and then it becomes a little bit more of a right now, right here thing, especially knowing that Europe's had a really rough go of it with their crops this summer. And then what's going to happen with South America? The world has gotten very comfortable with producing 2 crops. And at some point there will be discomfort with that. And I don't know if that's now or later, but the just-in-time supply model is pretty tricky in grains.
Yeah. Justin, what's on your mind with everything going on here this morning?
Yeah, I mean, like I said yesterday, I think, we had a classic first notice day low for now. Rally to the moving averages. I think we're, not to be Captain Obvious, just kind of in a weather market here, and see how the next 2 weeks go. I think seen this a lot where, you kind of have some problems, and then shocker, it gets warm and the weather's good in July and stuff grows really fast. So I think there could be a false sense of security in some of these areas with, how good the crop looks. I think there's, could be some surprises in some of these fields when you get in there, and I think it's funny. I was talking to my youngest brother that does our farm, runs our farms, and it all looks good. We saw this in some of these years where it grows and then you get in there and there's holes in the field that you just can't see anymore, and it kind of covers up some of those problems. So I think it's funny how we never got above a 180 national yield last year, and on social media, people making fun of people for suggesting it could be under 180 this year. So I think we've just gotten so used to just having massive crops that I think you will probably have to prove that the crop is smaller than what the government has written down. I personally think it's not the best start. I think it's kind of average, personally. And you forget about how many areas have to be good to have these kind of national yields. They're better. We talk about, this area looks great, or this area, like there better be most areas that look great to get these kind of yields. So I think a lot of little things could add up that, yields could be kind of disappointing in the end. I'm not saying that they are going to be, but, last year I just look back at the Dakotas. The Dakotas all the way through Nebraska, Kansas, Kentucky, Ohio, all of that was really, really good last year. And several of those areas are also good this year, but there's a lot that aren't by any means perfect, or even just, I'd say, normal or even subpar. So I'm on the camp that it's just an average crop, personally. Now, does that matter between now and September 1st? I'm not sure. I think it could be maybe to some of Ben's earlier comments that between now and Sep could be tough. You might not, this might be a after harvest, type market also. So I'm trying to be open-minded. I think if the weather, stayed kind of a hot and dry pattern in a majority of the belt, obviously that's an easy one to, decide what the market does. But if it's just that, the crop is below average, not a disaster by any means, it's still a good crop, just not, second best on record. I think that could take some time for the market to get excited about.
Yeah, I'm in no way putting this in trying to analog the years, but are you referencing like a 2010 type of scenario, Justin, where it was a battle the whole way, thinking that it was way better than people got in the fields once again?
Yeah, and I think 2010 was probably an extreme of what I'm talking about. Where it was quite bad actually once you got in there. Some are similar to that, but just not as extreme. I just think there's to get those really good yields like we did last year, you got in early, had perfect stands, had seasonal rain throughout the entire belt. Just a lot of things have to go right to get those kind of yields. It's not just some areas have to do good. I think there's a lot of areas in the belt that are, like I said, average, and they're not, you wouldn't say like, oh man, this is just a perfect year. Those things all add up, and to get recordy type yields, you have to have the majority of the belt be in ideal conditions or pretty ideal conditions. So,
Dustin's brought up multiple times this morning, Justin, about the fertilizer thing through the strait and like where the rubber meets the road for South America. What's your opinion? Still too early?
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate concern. Again, it's I think there's a lot of things going on in this market right now that can add up to some pretty friendly fundamentals. It's not just like at first, obviously, when the strait closed, it was like nobody's going to get fertilizer. Well, that's not the case. A lot of people have gotten fertilizer. Urea prices have collapsed here. It's gotten much more affordable for a lot of areas. So that's certainly the worst case scenario didn't happen. Could it reignite with some of the things going on here and hurt South America? I think certainly to some degree. So I don't think it's a worst case scenario where there's going to be no fertilizer put on a lot of these countries, but does it cut back 10%, 15%? I think all those are legitimate concerns.
Yeah. Ben, something to add before we roll the ride?
And we still haven't been able to really dial in what true acreage is per the USDA on the June report. Right? I think there's a lot of volatility left in these markets over the next 10 months or so. There's potentially a 2 million acre shift one way or the other based on the guidance that they gave. So, there's a lot left here to go off of in the next 10 months.
Yeah. And I just added that, talk about 5-10 cent moves. I mean, that's all background noise in my opinion right now. I mean, you're going to, I think in my email, I get like 17 different weather models, and you could literally find a model that fits your bias at any given point. And if you don't, just wait for the next run, which is every 7 minutes. It feels like I have no idea what the weather's models are. And they've gotten good at hedging their bets on, see, we told you it was going to be whatever. So
it's like that wonderful meme. It's like, check the rock. Is the rock wet? It rained. If it's dry, it's dry.
Yeah, right. Is the rope sideways? It's a hurricane. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing. So I just think we've kind of gone through the first, phase of big liquidation in the first notice day, then we had a nice rebound back to moving averages. And now we're just kind of in a weather market flip-flopping around for now.
Very good. Ryland, let's quickly touch on livestock. 11 session losing streak now for fat cattle, and strong start, weak finish yesterday in the hogs. So what are your thoughts as we start today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the focus this morning is going to be on beef. Choice market just kind of collapsed last night. It was down about $7. We were at 375.61. So just overall, you soured the tone. I mean, it seems like we're still seeing this kind of seasonal weakness. We really haven't seen anything on the cash front, even with some of the kind of weaker performance here right now in futures. So I think we're going to see a little bit of that. Packers probably trying to low bid, trying to gain even more leverage over the cash market right now. And if it's anything like last year, a lot of this kind of support didn't really show up until about August 1, going into that time frame. So it feels pretty seasonally to me, to be honest. I know we're making big swings, we're dropping, we're sinking like a stone. We've got 11 sessions straight down, but it does feel like futures are kind of leading cash at this point right now. I mean, it does seem like the roll is kind of dissipating here, but we still saw new lows in the AgYield spread yesterday. So it just feels like there's a big kind of sell-off here in the front end of the market. Like I said, we'll be seeing if next 2 weeks could still kind of keep this trend going. So we just want to be a little bit on the cautious side there. And then hogs, new highs for them move in August, but just could not hold on. I mean, there was a lot of optimism, but based on how belly's been performing lately, ham's been performing, but just yesterday, you kind of knocked it down a peg. Carcass only up 21 cents, and belly's down $1.28. So very sad that we could not hold on to those. Even though the national average for cash was up a little bit, the West is still pretty weak. So overall, we'll see. It seems like there could be a little bit of a fight here. You've got a little bit better of a technical perspective here, but we just need to see that performance in cash and carcass to really kind of get us going here. And it just doesn't seem to be showing up yet. So it just feels very flat right now. And if this is an indication of our kind of best seasonal demand right now, I think the high hopes is that we got a big Labor Day, but as of right now, just not showing up here. So it just kind of feels like we're going to trade the day to day right now.
Very good. Just came into the open here. Got September corn down 4 3/4 at 436 1/4. August soybeans are down 2 at 1194 3/4, and September Chicago wheat's unchanged here to start. 635 1/4. Link is in the description, but check out the War Room report. Opens up premium content. We'll do special reports, reactions to USDA reports, and just an overall deeper dive into everything we discuss here daily on the War Room. So check that out. Also, a portion of those subscription fees will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, which has awarded 5 scholarships here this last spring to very deserving college students. We're going to be honoring them in a week or so. So we're very excited about that. Check out the foundation. If you've got any questions, how to support, just give us a call. I appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and subscribe. We're doing this every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live at 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a great day. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is presented by AgYield. a risk management partner of American grain farmers for over 50 years. Looking for more in-depth analysis? Check out the War Room Report. Our team's knowledge and expertise delivered straight to your inbox every weekday. Each report delivers key market-moving headlines, critical weather updates, USDA report breakdowns, and exclusive video content, all for $50 a month. And most importantly, 10% of every subscription will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, a nonprofit investing in agricultural education and the future of farming. To sign up for the War Room Report, check out the link in the description or learn more at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.